Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today we're talking about Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I played this game on the PlayStation 1 version. I'm not sure if there was a PlayStation 2 version or not, but this is the one that I had growing up. Turns out that my significant other played the PC version of the game and she said it was pretty different than this game as well. So there are some differences between each console version. I remember the Game Boy Color version, I want to say, actually plays more like a turn-based RPG. So the handhelds are vastly different than the consoles as well. Let me just say that there is a huge difference between this game and Hogwarts Legacy in terms of graphical fidelity. Everything definitely looks very pixely and polygonal. The characters' faces themselves are like flat, and then they just have like animated JPEGs on top of the faces, and they did not age well. But there is a certain charm and nostalgia to these kinds of graphics. I really do enjoy seeing how they were able to construct these games with the limited hardware that they had at the time. As far as controls, it's pretty similar to something like old school 3D Legend of Zelda. When you move up against a wall, then you'll climb up it, and then when you move away from an edge, then you'll jump off the ledge. There's no dedicated jump button, which I kind of wish that there was, because there is a decent amount of platforming here, and sometimes it can be difficult gauging how far you need to jump. But Harry actually has some serious jumping skills, because he can actually leap up quite a distance to grab onto ledges and leap away from things. So even though you may not think that you can make a jump, most cases you can. As far as spells go, the main one that you'll be using is your basic shooter called Flipendo, which is like the knockback spell. In most movies and video games in the future, they kind of dedicated this to stupefy, I want to say. But then you're also going to your classes and you pick up a couple different spells that are very situational. You rarely use them, but you get like Incendio or Wingardium Leviosa, and most of these spells involve going to the appropriate thing that you want to use the spell on, and then it's like a timing button command kind of thing. Sometimes it can be a little difficult getting the timing down, because you'll have to press a certain button as it's like spinning around this area, and so if you don't land it at the right spot, then you have to restart it, and then there's like a time limit trying to get those button prompts down correctly and timing wise, otherwise you reset and have to start over again. There's a decent amount of puzzles in this game. It's kind of like a puzzle action platformer, I want to say. Most of the puzzles involve using Wingardium Leviosa to place objects in the right spot, or luring creatures to you so then they interact with objects, or using your Flipendo spell to move objects around the room. There's a decent level of mini games in this game as well. Most of these involve going through hidden passageways around the game. So most of the time when you look at a wall and a segment of the wall looks a little different than the rest of the wall, that usually means that it's a secret passageway and you can go into it. And these mini games vary from shooting things like pumpkins and chocolate frogs that launch up in the air, to aligning cauldrons over the fire, or collecting a bunch of birdie bots every flavor beans without getting hit by these bouncing creatures. Most of the time your reward for doing these mini games are going to be the magical famous witches and wizards cards that you would find in chocolate frogs, and you can slowly collect these, and you can always reference this book if you are interested in it. I thought that the cards were interesting as far as collectibles go, because it was fun seeing renditions of some of these famous witches and wizards from back in the day, before they had a lot of reference material on what these characters would look like. So for instance, Salazar Slytherin, he looks like very cartoony, devious. You also encounter Newt Scamander's card from Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and he's kind of like this bulbous guy that's holding an animal, a creature of some sort. So it was fun seeing like cartoony old versions of these famous witches and wizards, which most of us know what they look like nowadays. They've been like officially produced in terms of their appearance. And I liked a lot of concepts about this game because of that old, they only have the reference material really, I think, from the first movie and the first couple books. And so it was interesting seeing like some of the characters and creatures in this game that may not have necessarily been in the movie, because then the creators of this game had that creative freedom in terms of design. Like I think we come across Hinky Puffs, which look very, very weird, but you also come across like creatures that aren't in any Harry Potter lore lore or media. Like there's turtles that shoot fire out of their butt, and so they're not blast-ended scroots, but they're just like flaming turtles, I guess. And there's a couple examples of this where it's just like, this is not in Harry Potter lore or media. And it is interesting seeing just in terms of like what things they added to their game and what things they left out. It's not entirely like based off of the movie, but it's not entirely based off of the book either. So for instance, when you are trying to get to the Mirror of Erzed in the book, Harry and Hermione encounter a potions room where you have to like drink the right potion, mix the right potion or whatever to get through the fire. And they kind of had something similar to that in this game, and that wasn't in the movie. And so they used both sources of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone for references. And it's interesting to like some things they just didn't include in either one, and some things they just invented on their own. So for instance, after you play like your second Quidditch game, Hagrid comes to you and he's just like, hey, we need to go to Diagon Alley because we need to make a potion because Norbert is sick. And so then you go to Diagon Alley for the first time because you didn't go there before you go to Hogwarts, and you have to like go through Gringotts and go through the mine carts and collect all the money that you need in order to get ingredients for the potion to heal Norbert. Some of the major plot points in the book and movie are portrayed in not necessarily like a cinematic, but more like somebody is reading a picture book to you, and so it's like flipping through the pages as they're explaining what is happening. But if I didn't read the book or wasn't familiar with the movie, then I would be pretty lost in what's going on story-wise in this game. It's just like one thing after another, and they're just like trying to hit all the major story beats, but there's no real like lead up. It's just like, hey, now we're getting chased by a troll, and now we're playing Quidditch, and now we're going to find out about Nicholas Flamel, and now we're going to go put Fluffy to sleep. And it's just like event after another, and you're just like, wait, what's happening? Why am I doing this? Now, obviously, like I imagine most people would know what's going on because they're fairly familiar with at least the first Harry Potter, but if you hadn't, then the story is pretty nonsensical, which is pretty normal, I think, for video games that are based off of movies. They kind of just assume that you already know the main plot going into the game. I like how you get points for your house cup as you are fulfilling certain tasks, and then at the end of like certain segments, they show you like how all the houses are measuring up. Now, obviously, I assume that Gryffindor is always going to win at the very end, just to follow along with the movie, but it is kind of like a sense of accomplishment, like, hooray, you solved this puzzle, here's 5 points to Gryffindor. There's other things that you can go for as well as the chocolate frog cards. The main one being these Birdie Bots Every Flavor beans. These kind of play like one of those collectibles that are scattered throughout the levels, and if you get all of the flavors of Birdie Bots Every Flavor beans, then you go talk to the Weasley twins, and they give you a password to get through a portrait, and then you get a reward in that room. So I completed 2 of these colored Birdie Bots Every Flavor beans. The first one gave me a rare Witches and Wizards card, and then the second one gave me some armor that would allow me to take more bludger hits when I do play Quidditch. Both of these I did find pretty useless because, as far as I know, there's no reward for getting all of the famous Witches and Wizards cards, aside from self-satisfaction, I suppose. And then you only play 2 Quidditch games as far as like the actual story goes. I believe you can just play Quidditch for fun if you want, but as far as the story goes, I found these items pretty useless, but I'm not sure what the other 2 rewards are if you collect those beans. Quidditch is pretty fun, and I thought that they did a good job trying to give you the experience of playing Quidditch without overcomplicating it. Basically, you're just flying through these rings that are emitted from the snitch while you're trying to avoid bludgers. You really don't need to worry about avoiding bludgers, but you're just trying to like fly through the hoops, which is something. And then when you do fly through enough of the hoops, then you have to like catch the snitch. There's a little meter at the bottom that you have to press X at the right time, and so they implement that in the 2 Quidditch matches. And then there are those like challenges at the end where you're like flying through all of the keys and you're trying to catch that one main key to open the door. It is a fairly easy game, except for the end has some actual challenge in terms of like getting hit. They take a lot of health away. In order to heal, you can either drink a potion which heals you up all the way. It's not like an inventory thing, you just find these on the ground, or you can find these chocolate frogs and you eat them. And I like when you grab a chocolate frog to heal, still, I can't tell if it's a burping, like Harry's burping because he just ate a chocolate frog, or if that's the chocolate frog ribbiting. It is a little hard to tell, but either way, I do like the noise. Overall, it is a pretty short game, especially if you're not trying to 100% complete this game. My save file says that it took me 3 hours and 55 minutes to play through and get to the credits, and it says that I did 97% of the game. I don't think there's any reward for 100% completing this, but it would be manageable if you would choose to do so. Overall, I think despite its appearances, this game is actually still fairly fun. It wasn't too easy, but at the same time, it wasn't too challenging. It's just a fun romp that you could potentially do in a night if you wanted to have some nostalgia-fueled gaming. I'm going to give this game a 3 out of 5, and I went ahead and ordered the Chamber of Secrets for the PlayStation 2, so eventually I will make a video about the sequel, and maybe, who knows, maybe we'll get through all of the Harry Potter games. Well, guys, that's it for me. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Bye!